800,000 Ontarians are unemployed right now. I mean, we haven't even felt the hit of the tariffs and the layoffs that are coming, and we are already at 800,000.
Welcome to another episode of Closer Look across the Village Media Network on this Wednesday, the 8th day of October, 2025. We're very excited to welcome a rare in-studio guest tonight. Ontario NDP leader Marit Stiles is visiting Sault Ste. Marie and has graciously taken some time to stop by our Queen Street studios. Marit, welcome to the show. Great to see you as always.
Great to be here. It's nice to be in studio in real life with both of you.
Well, and we were talking about that when you walked in. You were our first in-studio guest. So this is a first.
We'll have to do this every time. New standards.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah, everybody should be able to come in person. Come
We've
on.
set the bar now. Okay, let's jump right in. Marit, because you're here in the Soo, we're going to start with a bit of a local question. Last month, Sault Ste. Marie's MPP Chris Scott was charged with spousal assault and promptly booted from Doug Ford's caucus. He's now sitting as an independent, and he's intent on not resigning. What do you say about that? What do you think he should be doing?
Well, I do think he should resign, and I don't say that lightly. Those are very serious allegations and charges. But, really importantly, and this is what I'm hearing as I've been in town, is the people of Sault Ste. Marie need somebody who's there right now fighting for them. Because, look, we've got people on strike all across the city. We've got a real threat, of course, layoffs at Algoma. We need a person here at the provincial level who is on top of that. And so I'm really concerned about it. And, I was coming anyways, but it's one of the reasons I'm here is I really do believe that we need a strong provincial voice. And so I will be that voice in the meantime, if I have to, because we need to bring the concerns of Sault Ste. Marie folks back to Toronto, and we need to make sure that the government is taking action now.
Is it even more frustrating because of how close that election was here locally? Lisa Vezo-Allen was the local candidate. I think she lost by 114 votes in the end. Is it extra frustrating because of that?
Well, I mean, it was a frustrating election, certainly. But no, I think they're two separate issues, right? I mean, for me, it's really about who's going to be the advocate. And certainly, no question, a lot of people probably voted for the government MPP thinking, okay, he's in the government, he's going to help us deliver some stuff. But, that's not really how these things work anyways, actually. It's also really helpful to have somebody who's going to be just a strong voice for the community. But right now, that is absolutely missing.
Have you talked to Lisa? Would she run again if there's a by-election?
Well, I don't want to speak for Lisa. I know she's planning to run again in the municipal, as I understand it. She's a great city councillor as well, so we're lucky to have her. But yeah, she and I have spent a lot of time over the last 2 days together because she is definitely, my ears to the ground here in Sault Ste. Marie.
All right, let's move on, Marit, to you and your party. You recently underwent a leadership review where you garnered 68% support. Not what one would call a resounding endorsement from your party, but does it represent? It does represent more than 2/3. What did you take away from those results?
Well, look, obviously, I'm not satisfied with that. And the message I got very clearly in talking to NDP members at our convention a couple weeks ago was people want to defeat Doug Ford in the next election, and they were not happy that we weren't able to do that in that snap election. I think they understand what we were up against, but they need us to do better. And they're saying that because they're hearing it from people in their communities. We have to do better. I have to do better. We have to be more ready. And, again, we don't know when he's going to call an election now. You're supposed to have a set election date, but that doesn't seem to work anymore like that. So no matter when it happens, we have to be ready, and we have a lot of work to do because, look, I really believe that a lot of Ontarians are looking for change right now. If you want change, you got to change government, and I think we are in the best position to be able to deliver an alternative that's going to work for people, real people, working people in this province.
Speaking of change, there was some immediate changes after the vote, including the departure of your chief of staff and principal secretary. Why did you feel that you had to make those moves?
Well, like I said, I think, this is a moment when, we're forced to say, okay, how do we need to change things up to do better next time? And I have a huge appreciation for the work that everybody on my team has done over the last few years. And certainly we were able to hold on to official opposition status and hold on to many of our seats. And we have, I think, the strongest opposition caucus in the country. We have an amazingly strong team. But we got to change things up. And I'm looking for people that are, have experience in winning. In defeating other governments, in delivering in government, because, the NDP has formed strong governments, particularly out west. So, I want to learn from them, and I need to bring in some new energy. Yeah.
So is it really just about running a better campaign? Is that what it is? It's not so much the ideas or the policies, but the campaign?
Well, I think some of it is ideas. People want to see I think increasingly people are looking for big change. They're looking for bold ideas. But it is absolutely, it's the work we do between elections. Mm-hmm. That's what's going to win us the election next time. So it's the work that I believe, it's the work that happens in our communities. Mm-hmm. It's, listening to people where they're really at, and not, just coming up with solutions at Queen's Park that you're going to impose in Sault Ste. Marie. What are people in Sault Ste. Marie talking about? What do they need to see from us? That's the kind of work that has to happen now as we build. And that's what I'm hearing from our members here in Sault Ste. Marie and all across the province is they want to get going now. Mm-hmm. They want to start that process now, and they're ready.
Will there be more changes coming, Marit?
You know what? Possibly. Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking right now for some people to take some of those top positions. But I think you'll see us very, very focused. One of the things that I've been, addressing a lot over the last few months is the unemployment numbers in Ontario. 800,000 Ontarians are unemployed right now. I mean, we haven't even felt the hit of the tariffs and the layoffs that are coming. And we are already at 800,000. We have some of the highest unemployment rates in the country. Towns like Windsor, that used to be like one of the economic engines of Ontario, have the highest unemployment rate in the country. And I see what's coming at us here in Sault Ste. Marie, and it really scares me. And I'm hearing that anxiety from a lot of people, whether you're a worker at Algoma or you're a teacher or an education worker or a college worker. We're all going to be impacted. And so I'm really concerned about that because I don't see a strategy from the government. There's a lot of talk. There's a lot of stunts right now. I'm going to say it, but I really don't see a strategy.
And what would the strategy be? Because we're all concerned that you use this community as an example, pending layoffs at Algoma Steel. Right. What's the right strategy? Well,
I was actually meeting this morning with the Labour Council here in Sault Ste. Marie, including folks from the steelworkers. And, very clearly, they're saying, look, it's great we got some money for Algoma Steel. I think it was $400 million from the federal government, $100 million from the provincial, and that's great. But there were no conditions or terms. And, they're negotiating these things behind closed doors without the workers. So I think there's some concern there. I want to see a strategy in place now. It should have been in place years ago, actually, but to actually start the retraining process now. Mm-hmm. Because there are opportunities coming, and we have to create those opportunities in Ontario, whether it's in mining or other sectors, and not to mention also the things that steelworkers here have been calling for. Like, let's talk about building rail. Let's talk about creating made in Ontario solutions. Let's not be as, frankly, reliant on those other markets that can really fail us, like we're seeing with the U.S. So I think the solutions are actually here. And that's what everybody was talking about today. It was interesting to see, college workers, teachers, education workers, and the steelworkers talking about like the strategy working together on a retraining and opportunities strategy. To make sure that people, because a lot of the workers we're talking about, they're going to be folks who are not in their early years of their careers, their working lives, right? Mm-hmm. It's going to take a different approach for somebody who's maybe a little closer to retirement than others.
Mm-hmm. It's a good transition because you talk about training, and we've heard a lot of reporting this week about the Skills Development Fund that the government was running. The Auditor General saying it's not fair, transparent, or accountable. Some of the details were less than half recipients were given high scores on their proposals by the civil servants, but most chosen by the minister's office were actually medium or low scores. What was your reaction to that? Basically, they're saying this was not a fair, transparent, or accountable program.
Well, and where have we heard those words from the Auditor General before, right? Fair, not transparent, not accountable. This is what the Auditor General said about the Greenbelt fiasco, about Ontario Place. Like, this has been happening again and again, and the government just doesn't seem to care to learn. So, what do you got here? You got preferential treatment for Conservative government, Doug Ford insiders. By the way, shout out to the Trillium folks.
Which is my next question.
Right, for doing amazing work on this. But it's not easy to do that because it's not a transparent process. And so we know now that, absolutely these contracts, and I believe, by the way, in the Skills Development Fund. I think that's an important opportunity to retrain people, to build skills. That's what we need to be doing. But the idea that, somebody's hard-earned tax dollars are being misspent, are being spent to, bolster the fortunes, make, some insider lobbyists rich, and we don't even know who's getting trained. We don't know what the outcomes are. That's concerning to me. And it's got the Minister of Labor's hands all over it, which everybody should be worried about.
And can I ask you about that reporting this morning from the Trillium, talking about the Labor Minister actually was at a wedding of a close friend, a lobbyist, and his office had given that lobbyist clients millions of dollars from this fund. Does that concern you?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's, look, that really concerns me. First of all, that minister, it's his staff, it's him who has the final sign-off on how those hundreds of millions, billions of dollars in funds actually that are being given away, and he is directly linked to that. And now we know that projects that were ranked low to medium priority bumped up because they were what? Is that because they were connected to these lobbyists who are inviting that minister to some, I'm going to say, pretty fancy wedding? Not everybody gets married in Paris in front of the Arc de Triomphe during Fashion Week.
Scott did.
Oh, really?
No, I didn't.
Wow. Well, yeah, no. It's a bit like, and you can't make this stuff up, right? But look, the point is that those are people who are making money off of this government's decisions. And when the government is making decisions that are not in the best interests of Ontarians and they're not respecting the taxpayer, we got a problem.
But through all of that, Doug Ford seems to be in cruise control, right? Another majority victory. The Liberals now suddenly without a leader in your party was actually down on both seats in popular vote in the last election. So how do you possibly begin to turn that all around?
Well, Liberals are going through a process again. They're sort of soul searching, figuring out who they are. Look, I look at it like this. In the last election, I think we were facing Ontario and Canada. We were facing some of the biggest threats to our economy, to our sovereignty. I know why people, want to have some stability right now. I get that. I think, unfortunately, that though what Doug Ford talked about doing and what he promised he was going to do and what people were counting on him to do coming out of that election is not what we're seeing now. And the proof is in the pudding, right? Look at how we don't have a plan here in Sault Ste. Marie. Look at how those Skills Development Fund dollars, which are essential to retraining for the future, how that's being misspent. This is going in the wrong direction. We don't have a plan for the future. There is no pathway. And so for me, it's organizing on the ground, making sure that we're ready for an election when it happens, but it's also being sure to put forward to people in Ontario a proposal, like a path forward, that an NDP government, like our friends out in the West, are fiscally responsible. We're not going to abuse those tax dollars. We're going to take not $1 for granted, and we're going to make sure it's going into places that directly impact workers. And that means listening to people. I was shocked, frankly, that when I heard today that the union, that the steelworkers were not consulted at all or brought into the conversations with the company and the government about getting those hundreds of millions of dollars. Like, they're the people who are going to be losing their jobs, and nobody's talking to them. Nobody's listening to them. That is really concerning to me.
That's a great point. Marit, I want to ask you, just sticking with this fund as well, you heard, I'm sure, Premier Ford's comments. He was asked, because you called it a corrupt program, and he was asked about that, and his response was, I'm going to read it to you. The NDP have no solutions. All they believe in is taxing people. That's what they believe in. And it's ironic, the NDP, when they have the public sector union sending them over opportunities of funding through commercials and everything else, that's the pot calling the kettle black.
Wow. Where do you begin? Look, I don't know what he's talking about, and that's been Doug lately. That's been Doug Ford lately, right? It's been pouring out the Crown Royal and eating an ice cream on television and throwing out all these things that to me, that's not addressing the issue. Answer the question. The question is, and the issue is, was there preferential treatment? The Auditor General says there sure was. What is he going to do about it? Is he going to stop this, or is this just how business is done in Doug Ford, Ontario? And I will say too, I take that as a deep insult. I am not the one flying out to Paris for some lobbyist wedding, okay? And I won't be doing that, and neither will any of my colleagues. Most of the people that I work with in our team of MPPs, we are working people. We come out of all kinds of sectors. We respect working people, and we respect the taxpayer. And he ran on that. And here we go again, scandal after scandal. So, I'd say, Doug, do the work, step up, listen to working people, and clean up your act.
I do want to ask you, because we've had people suggest that there's some distraction going on here. We talk about the big issues that we should be focused on, and yet we're talking about speed cameras in communities. Yeah. And it's just, and we've had a lot of people on our podcast talking about this issue. What do you make of that? I mean, why is this suddenly something that we're so interested in when it seems to be working in communities around Ontario?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a distraction. I think, Doug Ford and his government, they're looking at ways to distract from the big issue. The reality in Ontario right now, what most people are thinking about, is 800,000 Ontarians without jobs. And it's just the beginning. So that's what people are concerned about. They're concerned about the fact that, here in the Soo, you might be losing your job and you don't have a doctor, right? So that's what people are concerned about. And I think that Doug Ford doesn't have the solutions. And that's why he is out there with distractions like the speed cameras. Look, I know it's a pain to get a ticket when you're speeding just a little bit, maybe. But the truth is that, we need tools, right? And municipalities need tools to be able to make sure that people aren't, are safe. And that's one of the tools we have. And I think that, he was even applauding the fact that, speed cameras were being pulled down in Toronto. And I said, look, the premier should not be congratulating people for that, right? That's not okay. That's public property. We pay for that. So I think it's a distraction. And I think that, he should be looking to actually, help keep people safe and not taking away the tools we have.
Your thoughts on the 401 tunnel? Another distraction? Or,
I don't understand the premier's obsession with this. I mean, everything we know now is that it's a terrible idea. All the experts have already told them multiple times that this will not work, that it's not the best way to address there are real congestion issues around the GTA, and that is important for our economy. But, the solutions are not giant tunnel under a big highway in a place where it's just never going to work. This is like a biggest boondoggle. So, what I want to see is he was asked by the Prime Minister, for some nation-building projects.
Right.
He included that tunnel as one of them. He included that spa in downtown Toronto as one of them. Why don't we talk about housing? Affordable housing for people. Why don't we talk about, yes, roads. Why don't we talk about northern roads?
Right.
I mean, my goodness. Let's talk about how we could save some actual lives in northern Ontario, by the way, by fixing up our highways, having safer highways. I think, again, the government's priorities are all wrong. And I always look at those situations. I think, who's actually making money off it? Because increasingly, that's what I do, is follow the dollars. Which lobbyists, which private companies are going to make all the money off that? That's what's concerning me.
I do want to ask you about healthcare a little bit too. It's obviously a subject we talk about all the time, but we recently had Hazel Vanderwerken on our podcast. She's the mother of Finley Vanderwerken, who passed away in Oakville while waiting at the emergency room for more than 8 hours. And his case has kind of been sort of a flashpoint for all the issues that we're dealing with in emergency rooms right now. Had you won this past election, what would have changed under your government? And if you do win next time, what are you hoping to fix for emergency rooms in particular?
Well, I talked to her as well, and one of the things that she's proposing and they're talking about is, actually setting a minimum number of hours that a young person can or a child can wait in emergency. And I think that's the kind of thing we have to do. It's the same thing like. Another good one would be doing what they did in British Columbia and actually saying, okay, nurses can only see this many patients at a time, a nurse-patient ratio. This is a way of saying to hospitals and to the healthcare system as a whole, if we're going to achieve that, which is what we need to achieve to make sure people are getting good healthcare when they need it, where they need it, we have to put sort of standards in place like that, and then we have to fund it appropriately. And right now, I mean, I was at the hospital here in Sault Ste. Marie yesterday, meeting with the CEO, and I was, they're very concerned. I mean, they're doing some really great things. They're really trying to address some of the, I think in the summer when I was here, they were in a real crisis in the emergency room. classroom, but they're trying really hard to address that. But the fact is that the system is not working well. Some of that is because we're not putting our healthcare dollars in the right places, I think. And so, what would be different? It would be a patient-focused approach to delivering healthcare, where we put our dollars in the place, like in our public healthcare system where we know we're going to get the best bang for our buck, and that's also focused on making sure that those healthcare workers are supported. Because some of what we're seeing is that people are burning out. They're burning out. They're leaving, and so that shortage is getting worse and not better.
And we're seeing that in the education system as well. We've also talked in this podcast about the escalating violence we're seeing in Ontario schools. We talk to any teacher or educational assistant these days. It's a major concern. So you have both those major public sectors dealing with burnout because of the same issues. 100%.
I was just meeting this morning with the Labour Council with a lot of education workers. And, when I was elected back in 2018, I was the education critic or shadow minister for the NDP at the time. And the first meetings I had with education workers they said our number one issue is violence in the workplace, in the classroom. And the violence that they experience is violence that the kids experience. So here we are, 8 years in, and it hasn't changed. It hasn't gotten better. Why? Because class sizes have grown. Even in small communities, we don't have enough educational assistants supporting kids who are struggling in our classrooms. We don't have enough teachers. We don't have the mental health resources and supports that kids need. And that's all they're calling for. If we were to just simply address that problem, we would not have the situation we have right now. And we wouldn't have people burning out and never coming back. And so what's happening is it's compounding. Just like in healthcare, it's compounding. So, the government is not spending smart when they're throwing money at, increase. We need to increase the number of spaces, for example, for doctors in the north to train and nurse practitioners. But unless you're addressing the workplace conditions, they're just going to keep burning out, and we're never going to catch up.
I do want to ask you another education-related question. More reporting from the Trillium last week about school boards that lay truancy charges against you. I don't know if you noticed this coverage,
I did see that. Yeah.
But it was kind of shocking to me when I had read it, and because I didn't even think this even happened anymore. Do you think school boards should be charging students with truancy?
My personal opinion, and I haven't talked to many experts about this, to be honest, yet, but my feeling and from what the people I've been talking to is that no, we shouldn't. That the issue, and it was very clear in some of the cases that the Trillium reported on, is, are we providing students with the support they need, and families? I got to tell you too, I struggled when my kids were in school, in high school, with, keeping them at school, all right? And some of them, sometimes they left when they weren't supposed to. I think parents, this is what we worry about. And I had a hard time getting attention around that issue. And I'm somebody who could, pick up a phone and, try to find some support. And it's really hard. And then if you add on to that families who are already feeling getting a lot of pressure, a lot of families struggling right now, a lot of families worried about or have lost their jobs, we need to support families, but we also need to make sure that those students are getting the support they need in schools. Look, I'm not one of those people who thinks that you can't, you should be always so super easy on them, right? We need to also have some we have to have consequences, I think, for young people as well. Absolutely. But I think, at this moment, given what I've seen of the education system and how poorly the government is approaching things and how badly they're underfunding it, I don't think we can do this. I think we need to shift our focus to how we support kids in the classrooms.
I know we're tight for time. You've got another meeting and you've got a flight to catch. Anything that we didn't cover tonight that...
Well, I do want to say I just came back from the Soup Kitchen, which is an amazing place. What Tony Martin Community Hall, I think is where it's called. Yeah. I had the great privilege of working with Tony Martin some years ago, and I just want to say what a wonderful place that is. But I'll tell you, here we are. It's a beautiful day out, a bit chilly, but it was packed.
You'd never know.
Not in here, it's not.
I know, but it was a bit chilly. But it was packed. And I said to them, they're seeing the numbers grow there. The need is growing, and a lot of seniors, right? Of course, using the Soup Kitchen, and I'm seeing that everywhere I go in Ontario, actually, everywhere I go. And I know that a lot of those folks who are providing those food programs are really worried about what happens when winter hits, because they are really worried they won't be able to keep up. So, the solutions I still think are actually with government and, in communities. But in the meantime, I really encourage people to make sure that they're, helping support those folks because, or volunteering or whatever you can do, because the need is really great out there. Yeah.
All right. Good stuff. Marit Stiles.
Thanks.
Ontario NDP leader. Appreciate your time tonight. Always
thank
good
you.
to see you.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thanks so much.
Marit.
That's another episode of Closer Look across the Village Media Network. Be sure to follow us anywhere on social media, closerlookpodcast.ca. That's our website. Check it out and sign up to receive episodes sent direct to your inbox 6 days a week. For Michael Friscolanti, our editor-in-chief here at Village Media, I'm Scott Sexsmith. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow night at 7 right here on Closer Look.
Frisco and Scott's Wardrobe provided in part by Moores, Sault Ste. Marie.